And first up this week is Level Up Update, the Knockout Book number 2 series written by Dan Serganoff and Max Lagno. It is 571 pages, $5.98. It is not available on Kindle Unlimited as this particular recording of the show. Let me double check that. Nope, still not on Kindle Unlimited as of this recording. And here is the author's description. Having lost the trial, Hagen didn't just lose his interface and his memory of it, but also everything he'd achieved. His UFC career was ruined before it even began. Stripped of all his skills and abilities, Mike is once again a useless weakling. The last straw is the loss of all the money that he'd bet on his own victory. But you do remember, don't you, that Phil Panfilov promised to take care of his old comrade from Pibellau. What can Mike achieve with a non-combat version of Phil's augmented reality interface? He could, of course, become a businessman or found a gaming startup, but where would he find the money investors he needs? It looks like he might have to start fighting again. However, this time there's no prison guards to maintain order and make sure that the rules are obeyed. Once out of prison, Hagen is fair game for anyone who wants to kill him. Once again, he has to survive on his own. So there we go. Full disclosure, I received advance copy for review. I purchased a copy when it became available. I was genuinely surprised that there's a book 2 for this series, because book 1 definitely ended on a note where it's like, oh, this is going to tie into the main Level Up series, and it's going to kind of continue on from there. And that does sort of happen to a degree. So when we return to this series in the second book, the main and this is in the novel description, so that's spoilery. The main character has already lost his RPG interface that he had in book 1. And so this definitely feels like a hard reset of this spin-off series. And the first, like, I'm going to say 15% of this novel is really just what's described in the novel description, basically just more of a long description, like, oh, these are all the consequences of him losing that interface, how he's lost all the powers he has, how he's lost all the extra strength and agility and charisma adjustments that happened to his character, or to himself because of that. And then, of course, getting the interface back. Only this one is more like the one from the original main Level Up series. And I think that's a good thing, because although the first book in this series was definitely more action oriented than that series, the RPG interface was not as interesting, at least to me. And so it was really actually a pleasure to see a more robust system in book 2 of this series that definitely kind of reflects, I want to say, Dan Serganoff's influence, to be honest, as far as the RPG mechanics go, from the main Level Up series. And I like it, to be honest, because you get more than just fighting mechanics. You get more than just fighting RPG stuff. And so there are more social aspects. There's computer repair stuff, selling things, non-combat action. So there's a lot more RPG stuff that he can kind of benefit from, that I thought was allowed for a greater variety of like picked up and mixed up skills, and also just storylines that didn't necessarily have to do with combat all the time. So I think this was definitely a better balance between just full-on action story and also just other kind of things that are still revolving around that interface and it helping him in this real life LitRPG story. Overall, the story is very, very much slice of life here. It just feels like he's kind of getting the second chance with this new RPG interface, and it almost feels like a redo of the story. And you could almost jump into this novel, not even having to read book 1 in this series. There might be a few places where you're confused as to what happens. For the most part, this is, like I said, kind of a hard restart. And I think it's better for it. And again, that's just me. I liked the more robust RPG interface, and there's definitely story reasons why this is a different interface than the first book. But if you just want to enjoy a story, I think this is a nice slice story. For me, it gets a solid 7.5 out of 10. Level Up Update, the Knockbook book number 2, with a score of 7.5 out of 10. A very solid, good review.